We've got barbecue back here. You're all invited. Welcome to the Sloopcast. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm okay, Jared. I'm okay. Unfortunately I didn't get to watch much football this weekend. Weddings in the fall is a terrible thing to do. But
At least they waited for the bye week.
They did. Yes, I will give them credit. They unplanned to have the.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't know. Game. I don't know the couple nearly as well as you know the couple by a factor of a minus 100, right? But I do at least kind of know them, and they did not seem like the type that would would plan around an Ohio State bye week.
Yeah, but how are you doing, Jared?
I wasn't driving for 18 hours this weekend, so I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, you're going to have to carry the load this episode here, Jared. So let's get right in.
Not this episode. You're going to be fine this episode. Tuesday, I'm going to have to carry the load.
All right. Well, so this is not our normal Scarlet and Grade episode since Ohio State did not play this weekend. So instead, we are going to do a midseason report card. It is, as some of you hate to hear this, the season is halfway done. The regular season, that is.
Yes, but the regular season. The regular season. Let's not panic people too bad.
Halfway done, and we're gonna look past the past 6 games here, and we'll get some grades out here.
Zach says Jared drives the speed limit. Because this is being recorded, I'm going to say that's true.
All right, let's kick off here, Jared. So Notre Dame, Arkansas State, Toledo, Wisconsin, Rutgers, and Michigan State are Ohio State's opponents this year. Looking back at it, especially how piss poor Notre Dame has been so far this year, and especially after this weekend losing to Stanford here, it has not been a great schedule in terms of quality opponents for Ohio State so far, but it does get a little better the second half.
Stewart asks Freeman over under 2 years.
Over.
Let's say 2.5.
Over. It's over.
I'll say over, but he can't continue at this pace or he's done next year. If next year's like this year, he's done. You get 2 seasons, because let's be honest here. A lot of times you want to give a coach 3 seasons, right? But a lot of times when you want to give a coach 3 seasons, it's because they're coming in to clean up a bad program. Freeman was not coming in to clean up a bad program. Notre Dame was in good shape. And now let's be I think Notre Dame would be doing a lot better if they still had their starting quarterback. Most teams in college football can't afford to lose their starting quarterback.
No.
The vast majority of teams, the super vast majority of teams, if Ohio State needed to roll with McCord for a few weeks, they could do it. McCord's that good. Bama could roll with their backup quarterback, but for a little bit, but it would be a severe downgrade. I've seen the other guy play. He's fine. Notre Dame was forced to look at NC State, and we'll talk about NC State in more detail on the Tuesday episode. NC State turned to mush without I almost said Levy. Without, now I can't get Leary. Thank you. I can't get Leary out of my head. He's JT Barrett-esque. The backup Bama quarterback, is that who you mean, Stewart? Yeah. Okay.
All right. So looking at the stats here, Jared, for Ohio State so far this year, there's not too many areas to really improve in.
I can find a couple.
Not too much improvement here. So number 1 in points per game, 48.8. Number 2 in yards per game.
Improvement.
number one in points per play and number one in yards per play.
Now,
That is
I'll
just
say
that is just video game-esque numbers here.
number 2 in third down conversion percentage, and you know damn well they'd be number 1 if we were only counting actual competition snaps. And they are number 1, Kyle, scoring a 100%. You want to talk about no room? Well, I mean, field goals. But you want to talk about like little to no room for success. Ohio State has scored every single time they've entered the red zone. 100% scoring percentage in the red zone. That's absurd.
I know you don't. Yeah, I don't think you have that stat in here, Jared, but I believe they're really high on
touchdown
touchdowns.
Percentage. I think they're, I want to say they're in the 90s. I don't, you're right. I don't have that number in front of me.
But it's fine. It's fine though. But yeah, you know what's also
now,
really,
but Kyle,
really
I will
crazy? Just
before we get too far away from that, I'll just want to say we kind of knew the offense was going to be good, right? I think what we are really watching out for here is the defense. So how's the defense doing?
Yeah, defense here. So points per game, 8th.
Woo! Remember
yards,
Kyle, let's rewind for a second to a preseason press conference featuring first Ryan Day and then later Coach Knowles. Ryan Day is like, you know, our goal. Did he say top 20? Did he say top 25? I forget. But one of the reporters asked him, what's a realistic goal for the defense this year? And Ryan Day, I think he said 25, top 25 defense. He may have said 20. I forget exactly, but that's essentially what he said. And Kyle, do you remember what Knowles said in response?
He said, I wish he said top 10.
Now, do you remember what I said in response to Knowles saying that? I'll fill it. I said, you can go watch the episode. You can go listen to the episode. I said, don't tease. Wow. Okay. Let me try that again. I said, don't tease me, Coach Knowles. I go, that is not a realistic expectation. For Ohio State as a top 10 defense this year, they're going to win a national title. So don't tease me like that, Coach Knowles. I said something along those lines. Number 8 in points against.
But it gets better, Jared.
Yeah,
it gets better though. Number 4 in opponent yards per game.
Yeah, and in case anyone's worried, oh well, Ohio State just had a bye week. Maybe that's skewing. No, these are per game numbers. These are per game numbers.
Opponent points per play, 14th, which that tells me that they're not getting that many plays. And,
right.
Opponent yards per play, 7th. Opponent third down conversion, 5th at 27% third down conversions.
Yeah, and just so we're very clear, when he says 5th, that's from the perspective of the defense. Just like, so that's very good for Ohio State. But no, Matt, you do not have voice privileges.
Yeah, one area for improvement though. Opponent red zone scoring percentage.
Yeah.
90.9%.
Yeah. The 90.91%. Basically, if the other team's entering the red zone, they're getting points. Ohio State ranks 107th in the country on that. Now, again, I kind of wish I had pulled the stats for specifically touchdowns, because that's the name of the game, right? That's the name of the game. But yeah, I mean, this is not a defense, and we talk about, where could there be improvement? This is not a defense that necessarily forces a ton of turnovers.
No.
And we'll see those stats a little bit further down as well. So when the other team gets into the red zone, inside the 20, most college kickers are going to make that. So without a turnover or without the other team going for it, they're probably going to score. Now, could Ohio State do more to create more turnovers? Maybe. am I going to rag on them too hard about that after they just turned a bottom 5% defense into a top 5% defense? I am not.
Yeah.
Let's not fuck with what's working.
So one set that's really interesting because that I'm seeing here that you posted, Jared. I mean, we see so much credit towards CJ Stroud and the amazing wide receiver group that we have here. But Ohio State rushes the ball more often than they do pass. Now, some of that can be skewed because of late game play calling and all that, but still, it's about 56% to 44%.
I would have loved the ability to like limit that to the first half. Like what's their run versus pass percentage in the first half?
Yeah. One thing that really disappointed me last couple of years and really, really impressed this year is the rushing attack or on the defense. That was one thing that Ohio State just struggled. And we saw that against the Michigan game and even at times against Utah and heck, even the Oregon game a year ago, being able to stop the run. And it always seemed like if somebody's going to run it, they're going to get at least 3 yards before anybody gets a hand on them. Well, now Ohio State's really turned that around. Number 7 in opponent yards per rush, and that at 3 yards.
And
average.
That's without a ton of sacks too.
Yes.
Which can skew those numbers.
Absolutely.
And like this is what you like. I don't know. And we'll talk a little bit more about the Michigan game on tomorrow's episode, on the Tuesday episode on Collegiate Chaos. And like, say what you want to say about Michigan and who they've played. Say all you want to say about that. Their offensive line, especially from a running perspective, is really good. Sorry, and I Jared, you said a good thing about don't say good things about Michigan. I'm sorry. Their offensive line is real good. They have a really nice offensive line. Ohio State is going to need all of their run stopping horses to stop the Michigan run attack. All of them.
Absolutely. I mean, you had, and again, you can look at the schedule that the teams have played and all that, but it's going to go down. Michigan scored, or they rushed over 400 yards against a top 10 rushing defense. That's 400 yards. That's just crazy.
Again, I think we all knew that they're paper tigers, or I guess paper lions at Penn State. Like
I know.
Not actually a top 10 defense.
Anyone, but still, you put up. I don't care.
I agree.
What team it is. 400 rushing yards.
I agree. It's a lot against the Big Ten team, even if that Big Ten team is a down Penn State. I totally agree.
Yep. All right, back to Ohio State here. Nobody wants us to continue talking about Michigan here. So talked about the rushing here, passing here. So passing stats, Ohio State is number 6 in completion at 71% completion, 10.8 yards per pass attempt, which is good for 3rd. I'm curious who the top 2 are, Jared. If Ohio State is 3rd, who's 1 and 2?
If you want to keep reading, I might be able to find that.
Yeah, I think Tennessee is probably one of those teams. I agree, Nomad and Buckeye Zach. Let's see. Also here, yards per game. Ohio State is 16th at 315 per game. And the defensive side here, holding opponents to 57% completion, which is good for 26th best in the country on defense, 6.3 yards per pass at 6.3 yards, good for 19th, and opponents' yards per game at 160 yards per game, which is good for 6th best in the country.
I don't think I'm going to find this in a way
That's
that
fine.
is easy or fast enough.
Yeah, so at least on the offensive side here, no surprise really to us about Ohio State's passing attack. Even with JSN going down, it seemed like Ohio State just went on without a hitch. It's just crazy how great this this offense is, this passing attack, and yeah, it's pretty much what we expected here.
Yeah, it's. I already talked about the defense, right? Like expectations for the defense. What do we want to see out of the defense? We already talked about all that. But the other thing that Kyle and I were talking about a lot during the preseason was, okay, but what about the offensive line? And they had it was only one returning starter playing at the same position, right? Is that right? So. Two. It was two. Whippler and Jones. Center and guard. No, center and tackle. Yeah. Paris Johnson Jr., a returning starter, but moved from guard to tackle. And then they had two brand new guards. So, that's a lot of change at a position that is not Ohio State's recruiting strength.
Mm-hmm.
When the wide receivers left, we all sort of like, okay, but we got like more, we got more in the back. Don't worry about the wide receivers leaving. Offensive line, a little bit more of a concern. Again, they don't recruit. That's one of their weakest recruiting points in the past 4 or 5 years. So,
but still, Jared, you look at the numbers here.
But the offensive line is performing amazingly.
Yeah.
Kyle, better than last year's offensive line?
Statistically, yes. Statistically.
I would say they are a better.
Ohio State is 15th best in the country of rushing yards per game and 9th best in QB sacks percentage. So only about 2% of all of CJ Stroud's throws or dropbacks have led to sacks. And surprisingly, this was a surprise.
I'll keep that in mind, Nomad.
I didn't think Ohio State sacked that many, but apparently, in percentage wise, Ohio State is 14th best in sack percentage on defense at almost 8.5% of the time that Ohio State's defense gets a sack.
That's pretty good. It's not bad. It's not bad. Kyle, are we ready to start handing out grades? Are we there yet?
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about statistically first?
No, I think that's it. I know we mentioned this before. I won't spend too much time, but I think not seeing too many sacks from our defensive end was something that was a little surprising so far for how talented of our defensive ends we've had. But I think what we've seen this year so far is that the stats aren't gonna show how disruptive they are.
By the way, Kyle, I did find some interesting information. One, because we were talking about the pass per completion before, and who was better than Ohio State. Well, I want to say one, if we do pass per attempt, which is a better stat in my opinion, because incompletions work against you, which they should, right? If you rush for 0 yards, it should hurt your average. If you pass for 0 yards, it should hurt your average. So if we look at pass per attempt, Ohio State moves up to number 3.
Okay.
And yes, Tennessee is ahead of them at number 2.
Huh, who's number 1 then?
Before we get there, I want to say that the same team that is number 1 in pass per attempt is also number 1 in pass per completion, where, if you remember, Ohio State was number 5. Number 4 is Tennessee. Kyle, I will give you a
Army.
dozen. I'll give you a dozen guesses. You won't get one of the three teams other than Tennessee ahead of Ohio State.
I'm not even going to try to guess. I'm not even going to try to guess.
Come on, just rattle them off. Don't even put much thought into it. Give me 10 teams.
Oregon.
No.
Toledo.
No.
Ole Miss.
No. Look at the chat for help if you want to. They're giving you some good hints.
Coastal Carolina.
No.
UTSA.
No.
Army.
Yes.
Army.
Army is number one in both categories.
That's
number
funny.
2 in pass per completion. Yes, good job, Nomad. Oh, guys, we haven't even hit the best part yet. In the yards per completion, number 2 is Air Force, number 3 is Navy.
That's awesome.
If you want to dominate this, if you really want to dominate this stat, never throw. Just never throw the ball. And when you do, bomb it deep.
That's awesome. That's a great stat, Jared. All right, let's get to our.
I wasn't going to
gradings.
totally derail things unless it was good. You got to trust me on that.
All right, let's get to the gradings here, Jared. I feel like pretty much all of these gradings, it's going to be similar to Ohio State did against Michigan State. In my mind, I feel like that was pretty good. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good average of how Ohio State did. But we'll go through it though. So we'll quickly go through the gradings of them.
And let's base this on our preseason expectations. That's the scale I think we should grade it on. Yes.
Yes, Nomad. Yes, Nomad. The struggles do count as well. Yes. So let's start with the offensive coaching.
Offensive coaching gets an A+. They've done.
It's got to be an A+.
Nothing wrong.
I mean, you have one of the best offenses in the country. It's the best points. It's the second best yards per game. It's the best points per play. You can't do any better than that. A+, agreed. Quarterback.
By the way, we got enough A+s in the chat for the chat to also be A+. Right. Why did you skip just coaching?
Because
okay, go ahead.
Quarterback. I'd give CJ Stroud an A here. I think recently he's starting to. I think there's been some plays where he's trying to, or some games he's trying to do too much, and we've seen turnovers the past, I think, 3 straight games now. He's turned the ball over. Hopefully that's not a trend. He'll continue doing it. So I think I'll give CJ Stroud just a solid A.
I think that's fair because we have to grade CJ. We came into the season thinking Heisman candidate. You know what I mean? Like the three INTs were bad ones. Yeah, none of them were like. I'm pretty sure none of them were like goofily tipped, sort of weird. Like they were
Correct.
Either bad decisions or bad throws. No, that's false. That's false. The last week's was actually the wide receiver's fault. And I think you maybe make an argument that his first interception could have also been the wide receiver's fault.
It's still partially his fault because him and his receivers weren't on the same page. So
yeah, but one of them was on the correct page.
Yeah. Okay.
But again, I think
what would you grade CJ Stroud?
Yeah, I think a solid A is fine. He blindly threw it, but that's Spikes. That's what you're supposed to do. That's what you're supposed to throw it when he starts to break. This is one of the things I complained about so much back in the JT Barrett days. He would wait for the guy to get to the end of the route before throwing it. And by the time you do that, especially when you have JT Barrett's arm, by the time you do that, the defensive back has time to recover and defend the pass.
Correct.
But yeah, so based on, and again, I think he's giving an A+ performance but I'm gonna give him an A largely because our expectations were so high coming in, and we're grading it based off of expectation.
Yep. All right. Offensive line, I'd give them an A plus. It's
Yeah, 100. Yeah,
one of the best in preventing sacks, leading just an outstanding rushing attack here. Yeah, A plus for the offensive line.
this offensive line group is every bit as good of a pass blocking group as last year's team, and last year's team was, aside from Whippler and I guess also Paris Johnson Jr., but they were veterans across the line, right?
How many sacks so far? 4 sacks all year.
Yeah.
4 sacks in 160, well, technically 164 dropbacks. So
yeah, this is every bit as good of a pass blocking offensive line as last year's, and last year's was a damn good pass blocking offensive line, and they're a better, I would say maybe significantly better run blocking offensive line this year versus last year, especially if we're talking about like short yardage, obvious running situations.
Yep. All right. Running backs. I give the running backs an A plus here as well. Especially with the injuries that has happened to the 3 running backs, essentially. I mean, you have your third string out all year, and your first and second string have been injured, and the other picking up the pace there, and then you had the other running backs picking up the slack too, and it's just a lot of credit to the offensive line to help them out though. But I give the running backs an A plus here, just an outstanding job so far.
Nomad says
7.8 for Mayan Williams, and Trevion Henderson has 6.3 yards per carry.
So Nomad says he says just an A, and then he says I want Trey to be more downhill. I agree. Again, like with CJ Stroud, our expectations were sky high for these running backs, especially Trey. And I think he is experiencing the same thing that we saw out of J.K. Dobbins in J.K. Dobbins' sophomore year, where I think he's trying to break stuff open instead of just taking what's there and allowing the play to break itself open. And now I will say against Michigan State, and I think this actually plays into it. When he was given the opportunity to just be the guy and he didn't have to look over his shoulder at Mayan Williams, he was running much better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I think maybe we're correcting that, but I'm just going to do a solid A on the running backs.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Wide receivers. A plus, Jared. Like,
yeah,
it's I don't know how you could give it less than an A plus here, to be honest.
Agreed. Our expectations were sky high.
Remember that many plays where the wide receiver just drops the ball. It seems like anytime it touches the receiver's hands, it's caught.
Yeah, and there have been some communication issues,
but very few and far between though.
But when you have 3 new starters, I mean, they think would get maybe just an A, except for the fact that Smith and Jigba has been out basically the entire year.
Yeah.
If you factor that in, it's a solid A plus. Ohio State has 3 brand new starters on the offense at wide receiver, because JSN has basically not played this year.
I don't know if you posted this, Jared, or if it was on Discord here. Somebody posted a stat about the first like 5 games, and it showed the numbers for the top 3 wide receivers from last year, and then you look for this year, and they look almost identical in terms of catches and yards and touchdowns, just with 3 completely different players.
Yeah.
It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah. And just imagine, like, if they had been playing all game.
All right. It is. All right. The next group here is chat's favorite group here. That is, of course, the tight ends. What would you grade the tight ends this year, Jared?
A plus. I know that like maybe people, we always joke about year of the tight end, and people might want more reception statistics, but like y'all just haven't been paying attention to Ohio State in every year since Ricky Dudley. If you thought that this was going to become a pass happy tight end group, what I'm very happy about is that, again, if we're comparing this to like preseason expectations, we didn't even know who the starter was going to be. And we started, it's towards the end of camp, we started, finding out and hearing that it was going to be Cade Stover. But we went from like, who's the starter going to be, to like this guy, and he's rock solid. Stover makes the catches he needs to make when he needs to make them, when he's asked to make them, and he is a great blocker. He's a great blocker. He also needs to get credit. We give all the offensive line credit, and we give the running backs credit for that, excellent yards per carry stat.
Yeah.
We also exactly need to give Cade Stover credit for that.
That's exactly what I was going to say here. He helps seal a lot of those edges for those running backs to get open there. So yeah, A plus for the tight ends as well. It's just, this was a big question mark for us coming into this year, and because the expectations in here, they've exceeded beyond what I thought they would have done here. All right, and we're moving on to the defensive side. So defensive coaching, going from what Jared said, like bottom 5% to top 5%.
They went from a defense ranked in the 100s. Hey, you missed a position. Fullbacks are included in tight ends.
Yes.
We count them as one group. No. Zach just goes, no. Defensive, this team went from being in the bottom 20, 25 in most categories. And our expectations was for them to reverse that so hard that they would be in the top 25. I don't even know if that was an expectation. I think that was a hope. And now they're rolling in the top 10? I can't put enough pluses at the end of this A, Kyle.
Yeah, I agree. It's the turnaround that Coach Knowles has done to this team this year. Just absolutely bananas.
Yeah.
Absolutely bananas. Here.
And give credit to the other new coaches in the room as well. Absolutely.
All right, defensive ends.
Knowles for dictator for life. Our defensive coordinator is now a dictator. You know what? I don't even know if I'm against it.
Defensive ends here, Jared. I give the defensive ends so far this year an A. I'm not giving them the A plus here. I mentioned it briefly the beginning of the show, and we've mentioned it a number of times in the past few episodes here. They're so dominant that the stats do not show it. They really don't. Lack of sacks is concerning. Well, it's everybody else that's picking them up. It's because of how the defensive scheme is. The defensive ends don't really need to make those plays. It's the linebackers that's really making the plays, or you have just in the next position coming up here, Mike Hall is just the defensive tackles is just blowing it up as well too. I could go probably down to an A minus, but I'll still stick with an A for my defensive end grading here. I'd like to see more stats from them. Absolutely. And that's what every Buckeye fan wants to see. They want to see these pass rushers get the sacks. They want to see them start getting a lot more as the season goes along here, but they've just been so dominant right now and getting those quarterback pressures too. So solid A.
Nomad asks, what are the tackle for loss numbers with the defensive ends? Sawyer. Oh, how does this not have tackle for losses?
I'll pull it up. Just give me a second.
Okay. Yeah, Kyle pulled it up. By the way, I just want to say something. Of the top 4 sack getters, 2 of them are defensive ends. And one of them is Jean Baptiste, which was like not who we were expecting to be one of the leading sack getters, especially among the defensive ends. The other one is Jack Sawyer. And yeah, they only have 2 each. The lack of statistic performance by the defensive ends means little to nothing to me. They're crashing the outside. They're forcing the quarterback to step up and into all of the chaos where the defensive tackles are eating them up. You can't look at, and by the way, we also need to remember when we're talking about these defensive ends, they're not sack specialists. I know sometimes we think about them that way. They aren't. When we talk about the defensive ends, we also need to talk about how Ohio State is currently number 4 in yards per game and number 7 in yards per play, and how they're number 8 in points per, did I say that? Number 8 points per game, number 4 opponent yards per game, opponent yards per play, number 7, third down conversion, number 5. The defensive ends don't just play football when there's a passing play.
Mm-hmm.
If the quarterback had 4 to 5 seconds with no pressure, that would be a problem, but that's not happening, and they are playing complementary roles. Thank you, Zach. Or excuse me. Yeah. It's the second time I've done that to you, Spikes. It's the Z. It throws me off. Thank you, Spikes.
John Baptiste. So here's some numbers here. So John Baptiste has 2.5 tackles for loss and 2 sacks for the year. Sawyer has 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and JT Tuimoloau has 3 tackles for loss and 0 sacks.
Yeah, you look at all of the tackles and all of the sacks that the linebackers and the defensive tackles are getting, that is being created by the defensive ends. It's not, we can't judge this group based off of just sack numbers. That's silly. Agreed. They get an A+. They've been great this year.
Okay. All right. Defensive tackles, A+. I mean, this should be the Mike Hall position here because Mike Hall has just been so dominant here. I'd give the defensive tackles an A+ here.
By the way, Vincent's also had a good year so far this year.
So disruptive, and they're really penetrating to force the run plays of the opponent to change where they're going. And when they hesitate, that's why you're seeing Eichenberg and Chambers, excuse me, really getting. You
got it right the first time.
I got it right first time. Chambers are making plays there. They're so disruptive here, and yeah, A+ for the defensive tackles.
I'm gonna just do an A. If I were just grading Mike Hall, it would be an A+. But I think I'm gonna do just an A here. No, I'm not. I'm gonna do an A+. I'm just a little. I just went on the whole thing about the rushing statistics and everything, right? I can't just all of a sudden turn back on that. I'm just wondering where's Tyleek?
What about Tyleek? What do you want? What do you want to know?
Where is he? That's what I'm asking. He hasn't been playing much. We had all of this preseason hype about Like,
Mhm.
he's lost some weight. He's going to be able to play more. We're going to, you know what I mean? Like, we're making sure that he's going to have the stamina to stay on the field a bunch. And we just like haven't seen him.
Yeah, it's if you look at the look at his stats here,
Zach says, I think Tyleek's hurt. He's not been on. I'm not going to say any because I don't know. I don't think it would be accurate to say he hasn't been on any of the injury reports, but he's not been on all of them.
He's played in every single game so far.
There you go.
Now, is it going to be kind of like how many plays has he played?
Spikes, did you just drop the Z from your name because I'm an idiot? Now I feel
he could
bad.
be playing hurt, yeah, but I haven't heard. I haven't heard though. All right. All right, let's go to the linebackers.
Spikes,
Jared.
Austin literally changed his Twitter handle because I'm incapable of reading and pronouncing things. I am a mess when it comes to reading and pronouncing things. And everyone else needs to like stop catering to me about it.
All right, Jared, got to move on here. Linebackers is the next position here. Expectations and what we've seen so far this year. Anybody gives less than an A+ here, they're a hater. They are a hater if they don't give an A+ for the linebackers. Just
100%.
Complete night dirt. I can't talk. Just complete 180 of what we've seen the linebackers from the past few years to first year under Jim Knowles, and just how much improvement we've seen here. Just A+.
Nomad says, I want to see more rotation. We had rotation at the linebacker position last year. Is that what you want?
It didn't help.
Is that what you want? I mean, not enough for some people, names not mentioned, who stormed off the field. But yeah, seems like none this year. Yeah. It's almost exclusively, and I say almost, but it's been almost exclusively Eichenberg and Chambers. And by the way, with the way they're performing, I am fine with that.
Yep.
Concern is getting spent against higher end opponents. If that's what happens, you can rotate more against the higher end opponents.
Exactly.
And you're in a position where you have two guys who are the solid guys, and therefore you can sub out one of them. So you still have an experienced veteran on the team who can sort of help out the young guy. Hey, just so you know, this is what we're doing. This is what's happening. I think one of the things that we heard in the preseason, Ryan Day talk a lot about, was like emphasizing leadership. And I think if two of your best leaders are at the linebacker position and you want your leaders out there, you can finish that sentence on your own.
All right, Jared, corners this year. Corners have been
below expectations.
Going into the season, we knew that Ohio State was very short in numbers for the corner positions here. Excuse me. Yeah, very short in terms of numbers for the corners, and so some of the players haven't been playing as well as what would expect them to play here.
And there have been injuries. Let's acknowledge
there's been injuries too. I'd probably give the corners probably a B-. I would say. I think B- is a fair grade.
Yeah, like if like just meeting expectations is like an A- or a B+, then they're below that. There have been injury issues, and we knew from the beginning of the year that they were thin at that position, but we thought they were going to be pretty top heavy. We thought Denzel Burke was going to, we were getting ready to like found, Burke Island, lock him up with anyone, they're going to be out of the game. And it hasn't been the case. And again, he's an amazingly talented guy. He has some great coaches behind him. I think they're going to figure it out. And I don't want to like sound the alarm, but to this point in the season, which is what we're grading based off of our preseason expectations, they've not met expectations. Kyle, I think your B- is perfectly fair.
All right, cool. So
depth
we got
issues and scheme placing. Well, hold on. Zach says depth issue and schemes placing them on islands. The problem, I don't think that's a good excuse. Zach, the depth issues, maybe there could be fatigue and whatnot there. Okay, but the scheme placing them on islands, that's what we expected them to do, especially with Burke. That's the point of the defense. Be aggressive and get enough stops. Yes, Spikes is correct on that. But also, what you have to keep in mind, Zach, or anyone else who might be concerned about the scheme, the corners are in position. And a lot of the big plays that we've seen the corners give up, the corners have been there. They've been on the guy. They just aren't finishing. They aren't getting their hand in the correct spot. They aren't knocking it down. They aren't picking it off. They aren't forcing it out of the wide receiver's hands if they do catch the ball. I don't think you can blame scheme when they're in the guy's back pocket as they're making the catch.
Yep. So we got here B-, C+, and an F here. So I'll just average to a C+ for the chat here. And
okay.
And we have the safeties. What do you rate the safety?
A+. We didn't know what we were getting with the safeties coming into the year. We knew that safeties were a bad issue last year. The safeties played, I mean, aside from one person, the safeties were largely pretty terrible last year. And then all of a sudden, like, we felt like we were thin at safety. We think we only had like one proven guy at safety. And all of a sudden we're going to start playing 3 safeties. It was a huge question mark coming into the year. And I think they've been nothing but exceptional. I think they get an A+.
Yeah, I'd give them an A. I think there is room for improvement for the safety group. And I really, really like what I've seen so far here. So I'll give the safeties an A, and it looks like chat here A, B+ here. So yeah, I think they agree to room for improvement as well too. But stellar job so far this season. In the last position here is special teams. I'd probably give the special teams a B- so far this year.
It's tough because this encompasses so much. I think the punters and the kickers have been good.
Well, I mean, the kickers, they're kicking 66% from field goal range right now. Not a great percentage right now. And the punting has been pretty good for the most part. Kickoff return, they're
kicking the ball.
I think the last game against Michigan State really showed some things about that the kick coverage needs to improve there. Punt coverage is perfectly fine, but kicking and kickoff coverage really needs improvement. And of course, Jared,
stop kicking the ball out of bounds.
We still have no return touchdowns.
Yeah, it's like a C+. I think is probably pretty fair here.
Okay.
Ruggles only needs to be there for Pats. Yeah. Coverage looks like Meyer is on the sidelines. It's not the coverage. It's like this insistence on trying to like basically place it in this tiny little box right on the sideline, right inside the 5. Like, just kick the ball out of bounds and let the defense play. Not out of bounds, out of the back of the end zone. Stop kicking it out of bounds. Start kicking it into the end zone.
Yep. All right. All right, and we'll do Buckeye leaves to end this episode here, Jared.
By the way,
then.
real quick, Hickman, Ransom, Proctor. All three of them are in the top 6 in tackles for the Ohio State defense. I'm just saying I was the only one that gave the safeties an A+, and I think that's false and bad. I think Hickman's been amazing this year. I think Ransom's been amazing this year. I think McAllister's been amazing this year. Proctor, when he's come in, has been, I think he had like a bit of a rough start to the season, but like in the latter half of the season we've seen, he's played excellently. I think the safeties are playing great, and I think they deserve an A+, especially for a position group that we didn't have high expectations of coming into the season.
All right, let's get Buckeye leaves for the positions here. So one on offense, one on defense, and a wild card of your choice. Let's start with the offense here, Jared. Who do you give your Buckeye leaf to for the first half?
Sometimes the boring answer is the right answer. It's CJ Stroud. He's the Vegas leader for the Heisman Trophy. And it's weird because the quarterback was the only position that Kyle didn't give an A+ on the offense, if the chart here is accurate. And that's where I'm going with the Buckeye leaf, but it's really only because our expectations were so high. Because he has been excellent.
Man, I know this is. I'm going to say the offensive line, but I got to pick someone here. But the Buckeye leave is the offensive line here because
can't do that.
They're making
pick someone.
I know. So I'll pick someone different here, and I'll go with Ibuka. I'll go with Ibuka here. He's finally getting his chance to really shine here and leading the team in receptions, yards, average, and has the longest reception for the team as well too. Doesn't quite have the touchdowns that Marvin Harrison Jr., but everything else Ibuka is just excelling at. So I'll give Ibuka my Buckeye leaf here.
Chat, who do you want to give your offensive Buckeye leaf to? Let's see, Zach.
We got one for
Whippler, and Spike said Stroud. Just put Whippler since I said Stroud.
Okay, that's fair. All right, and defensive side here. I'll go first, Jared. I'm probably going to steal your pick, but whatever. I'm going to go with Tommy Pickles. I'm going to go with
Tommy Pickle Eichenberg.
I'm going to pick Eichenberg here. Leads the team by far in tackles. Has 2.5 sacks he has 2.5 sacks for the year, and I think he has the most tackles. Yep, he has the most tackles for loss as well. No, I'm sorry. He's second in tackles for loss. And Mike Hall is the one who has more tackles for loss than him. But I'll stick with Eichenberg for my Buckeye leaf on defense.
You're correct, Kyle. I was going to pick Eichenberg, but in order to spread the wealth around a little bit, I'll call an audible and go for Mike Hall. Leading tackles for loss, one of the leaders in sacks, has been
the leader in sacks.
Has just been routinely disruptive along the defensive line.
Yeah, absolutely.
Chat. Chat says Hall. Chat says Hall.
We got Hall. All right, and the wild card. My wild card, because we thought this year it was all Trey Hundo. Trey Hundo was going to just be disruptive and all that. I'm going to give my wild card to Chop. I'm going to give it to Mine
Mike
Williams.
Agrees with you.
He's stepped in here and has just been lights out here, just running with emphasis here. 7.8 yards per rush attempt here. Eight touchdowns for the year. I got chopped for my third Buckeye leaf.
It's an excellent pick. I'm going to go with Paris Johnson Jr. Paris Johnson Jr. is the left tackle on what is one of the best offensive lines I've ever seen Ohio State have. He is, or he has never given up a sack at Ohio State. And again, you look at all of those rushing numbers, and of course, the left tackle matters immensely in that. Paris Johnson Jr. has been an absolute monster for Ohio State this year, and he's an offensive lineman, so you don't see that in the stats, but and in large part, like Kyle was saying when he was looking at the offense, he kind of just needs someone to stand in, someone to represent the offensive line. And that's largely what I'm doing here as well.
Yeah.
I can't pick the entire offensive line. I have to pick someone, and I'm picking Paris Johnson Jr. But what I'd love to do is give it to the entire offensive line.
All right, fair enough. All right, Jared, I think that's it. That is our mid-season review here. Anxious to see the Buckeyes back out onto the field this weekend as they go on the road to Iowa here. Wait, no, they're home. They're home to Iowa. I'm sorry. They're home to Iowa, so it's probably a good thing. And
hey, we never play in Iowa ever again.
It might have been a night game too, for all we know. But
by the way, real quick,
looking forward to that.
Just in case we had extra time at the end of the show, and we don't, we copied and pasted our preseason superlative list into these notes, and hey, maybe we'll go back through them. But we ran out of time. We were having fun grading everyone. But Kyle, I think I do want to pick out one of these questions. Just one of these questions. Most likely to win an end of the year position trophy. Who's most likely to win not the Heisman, but the whatever for their group?
Man, the easy pick is probably Stroud, but I feel like a lot of people are really paying more attention to Hooker right now, especially after his win over.
They're being prisoners of
Alabama here.
They're being prisoners of the moment. They only think that because the Bama game was yesterday.
I still would have to pick Stroud. Like, I don't think it's any of the running backs because they're sharing the load there, and I think the same with the receivers. Maybe it could be Marvin Harrison Jr. with all the highlight catches that he's been making here, but I think I'll still stick with Stroud.
I'm gonna go a bit left field with this one. Kyle, do you know what the Broyles Award is?
Are you going with Pickles?
No, that's not the Broyles Award. Does anyone in the chat know what the Broyles Award is? I got a nope from Nomad, a no from Spikes. The Broyles Award goes to the best assistant coach of the year. I'm giving mine to Knowles. The turnaround in the defense has been.
I feel like that's cheating, guys. Do you agree, guys?
It's a postseason award.
All right.
We never win those. But right. Maybe. I feel like we have one Broyles.
Because I'm not going to argue because we're over on time here, so I'll let you have it though.
Let me have it. Who do you think you are thinking you can allow me to have something? Kyle, okay, end of the show. Everyone, please be sure to if you listen to the podcast version of this on audio, then please feel free to jump over to YouTube, maybe give us a watch over there every once in a while. But at the very least, like, subscribe to our channel, help us get those numbers up. YouTube.thesloopcast.com, or just go to YouTube and search Sloopcast. You'll find us. And if you listen to us or watch us on YouTube exclusively, know that you can also find us on your podcast app of choice. That way the podcast is automatically downloaded to your phone. You can listen to it whenever you want, and you don't have to feel like you have to watch us. You can just listen. And Kyle, I think that's all the plugs I feel like doing at the end of the show. Do you have anything in Kyle's corner for today?
We got a boom. We had a boom over the weekend, Jared, and
Excellent.
And it was not for football here. We got our first commit for the 2024 class for the basketball team here. Sorry, we got Junie Mobley out, a point guard over at Las Vegas here. He's a top 50 prospect here over at, you probably heard this one here, Jared, Bishop Gorman High School.
I've heard of Bishop Gorman, yes.
All right, but yeah, big get here early on for Chris Holtman. That's it. That's all I got.
All right. Is that it? Is that the end of the show?
That is it, Jared.
All right. Tonight's ending music will be brought to you by, hold on. Wait for it. Why won't my phone do the thing it's supposed to do? Tonight's ending music will be brought to you by the Ohio Weather Band. They're kind of a folksy sort of band. So stick around for that. And yes, Zach, weather. Everyone rejoice. They're the Ohio Weather Band. So, with all that being said, I'd like to encourage everyone to drink local beer, listen to local music, and of course, support your local podcasters. Once again, this is the Ohio Weather Band.